He's All That is out on Netflix now. This is a little bit of a late review for me. This is the latest attempt by Hollywood to recreate the 80s and 90s for nostalgia's sake instead of actually updating the story for modern audiences that they can relate to and actually attempt to create a solid movie. So yeah, as you can probably tell right off the bat, just from how I described that, I didn't like this movie, didn't vibe with it. But if you want to know what He's All That is about, as I said, it's a remake of the 1999 film starring Freddie Prinze Jr. and Rachel Lee Cook. I almost said Sarah Michelle Gellar because I feel like Freddie Prinze Jr. is in everything with Sarah Michelle Gellar in the 90s and early 2000s. I think it's because they're married, whatever. So it's a remake of that film, and this one's a gender swap, which I'm completely cool with as long as the execution is there. Most of these movies it is not, but we follow Paget, played by Addison Rae. She's a social media blogger promoting all these beauty products, and then she makes a bet with her friends to transform this loser kid that every teenage girl is gonna say is hot because they thought Taylor Lautner in Twilight, when he had his shirt off, was hot when he was literally the ugliest thing I've ever seen in my life, into the prom king. So yeah, she's gonna date this dude and take him to the prom, and you know where this is going right off the bat. First off, all I gotta say is Addison Rae. Yeah, in real life, she is a social media blogger. I guess she's big in the TikTok world. I don't know. I don't do TikTok. TikTok is just not for me. Why would I want to be on an app called TikTok? The clock is literally ticking. I don't understand the addiction to TikTok. I'm not one of those people that can just sit there hours on hours watching TikTok videos. So I don't see the fame with TikTok. I don't see the purpose of TikTok. That's why I'm not on TikTok. Basically, I don't like TikTok. That's my conclusion there. And that could work in a movie like this, and I get it, she has never acted in a movie before, but she's not essentially playing herself. Yeah, the movie opens up with her doing a live stream on like whatever social media network she's on, and it's like, okay, this I somewhat buy because you are a social media blogger in real life, but at the same time, it's like you're just playing a caricature of yourself. Like, this is not you. You can tell she's trying too hard to act differently from how she acts in real life on TikTok. And when it comes to the actual acting, yeah, she's atrocious. The jokes do not land at all. I did not laugh once while watching this. I didn't even give a hearty chuckle. Come on, like, this is a comedy. Make me laugh. Like, you can have that PG-13 humor and make me laugh, which brings me to another point. I get it, She's All That was PG-13, but this is a Netflix movie. They're in high school. Let them swear, let them say fuck, let them say bitch. Don't just relegate it to ass, hell, and damn. Like, people were saying bitch and shit and fucking, I don't know, cock in high school all the goddamn time. They're seniors in high school in this movie. Dude, I was on the lacrosse team in high school. Every other word out of every coach that I had coaching lacrosse was fuck. Like, Jesus, nobody's getting offended here. We shouldn't say that. The parents are watching. This is made for teenagers. Even if we say damn, they're gonna get offended. Oh my god. We cannot say bitch. We cannot say bitch. I guarantee that was the thoughts of the director, Netflix, and whoever wrote this really terrible script in the first place thought of. There's also massive amounts of product placements. Oh man, where do I start with this product placement? Here's the only way I can calculate this. Netflix was getting endorsements from these products and said, okay, now that you're sponsoring us, we'll put you in some movies to get your name out there. My God, how much did they pay Kellogg's to put Lucky Charms in here? How much did they pay Pizza Hut to promote Pizza Hut? There's a whole entire scene dedicated to Pizza Hut. Just saying, Pizza Planet from Toy Story, a lot cooler. This movie didn't get the chance to ruin that. Addison Rae's character is a social media blogger with all these beauty products. I'm like, you don't even use these in the movies. What is the point of promoting these beauty products if you're not gonna talk about them in the movie? Actually, that's probably a saving grace of this movie because I think we were saved from a 5-minute soliloquy about Neutrogena or some shit. Hollywood is at such a weird phase. Like I've said in previous videos, Hollywood gets trendy. There are certain things that happen in movies, and then every movie continues to do that. Let yourself get caught and then escape with no real objective plan, or, okay, cast cast this actor in this really famous franchise as this big bad in this next movie. Say he's actually not an iconic villain. He has this other name, but he ends up being that iconic villain, and it's just there to be a wink at the audience instead of having an impact on the story. Then there was the beam in the sky thing. Now we have all the latest movies in a franchise just renamed after the first movie in said franchise. And Hollywood has also come up with another trend that they think the 80s and 90s were like the glory years of cinema, and that they just want to recreate the 80s and 90s. And yeah, sure, the 80s and 90s were great. You guys know me. I'm a 90s action movie junkie, and I'm down for a movie that feels like a 90s action movie every once in a while, but I don't want to constantly be stuck in a 90s action movie mode for 3 decades. It's 2021. Throughout the 2010s and now into the 2020s, Hollywood is just stuck in 80s and 90s mode. They think that everything we loved in the 80s and 90s just needs to be recreated and reprocessed for a new audience with no care going into the product at all for modern audiences. They just think that if they slap the name on there, we're just gonna slurp it up. And unfortunately, for their sake, we do, so they keep making this shit. I'll give you a prime example. Predator came out in 1987. One of the best action movies of the 1980s. Then it had 2 sequels. You had Predator 2 in 1990, which was a decent action movie, but you could argue you didn't even need to make a 3rd one, Predators. That came out in 2010. That was really the start, because as much as I do like Predators and I do prefer it over Predator 2, Predators feels more like the first Predator movie, and that is just recreating what the first movie did, because oh hey, they're back in a jungle, but oh, we're gonna change it up a little bit by having them on the Predator's planet. And then comes 2018's The Predator, and that's where it just went completely downhill. Die Hard from 1988 had successful sequels, and then 2013 they're just like, well, Live Free or Die Hard was a successful sequel, and was actually, in hindsight, a damn good movie. So let's just make A Good Day to Die Hard with one of the worst directors ever, with one of the worst writers ever, and just slap the Die Hard name onto it. Mindframe is still somewhat the same, but now the mindframe is, hey, you remember that popular 90s movie? Let's just remake that, swap the genders, which again, I have no problem with as long as it's executed well, but rewrite it in a way that is a lot worse, has some really terrible dialogue, and in a way that people cannot relate to it. Let's just slap the name on there so that we can sell movie tickets, or since we're a streaming service, let's just slap the name on there so we can get viewership and our views go up and we look a lot better. I don't know, it's like if you're an accountant and you have to reach like a certain goal at the end of the day, but you don't reach that goal, say you're like 15 bucks off, you manipulate the numbers and it's like, oh, I did it now. Yeah, you're cheating the system. Hollywood is really, honestly, cheating the system now, and it's getting to a point where it's being a pain in the ass, and I'm getting tired of it. Stop recreating the 80s and 90s and slapping the same name or a similar name to stuff that we love onto everything. If you're going to do it, have a reason to do it, is basically what I'm saying. And Matthew Lillard and Rachel Lee Cook actually make appearances in this movie. They don't play their characters from She's All That. And speaking of recreating the 80s and the 90s, you would think a 90s heartthrob Freddie Prinze Jr. would be in this, because he was all over the place in the 90s. He was in She's All That. He was in I Know What You Did Last Summer with his future wife, Sarah Michelle Gellar, who was also all over the place in the 90s. Scream 2, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. How is she not in this movie? Scooby-Doo? How do you not love Freddie Prinze Jr. and Sarah Michelle Gellar as Fred Jones and Daphne Linkley in Scooby-Doo? Perfect Fred and Daphne pairing. But no, the teenage heartthrob named Freddie Prinze Jr. is not in this movie. He's too busy doing other important things, like better things, voicing Kanan Jarrus in Star Wars Rebels. Good for you, man. I'm glad you did not get to take part in by far the worst Netflix movie I have ever seen. This is proof for me that I don't know, I've had it up to here with Netflix. And their original movies, their TV shows, their original TV shows are fucking fantastic. But when it comes to their original movies, aside from a couple here and there, they're just flat out trash. And honestly, like, I don't want to give them the viewership anymore. I stopped requesting Netflix screeners because, hey, you know what? Like, A, they're a pain to get. B, I don't care about Netflix original movies anymore because most of the time, they're gonna be absolute shit, just like He's All That. Poor Matthew Lillard, saddled with a supporting role in this movie that has nothing to do with his role from the first one. What was his reasoning?
Peer pressure. I'm far too sensitive.
As you can probably tell, I'm going to give He's All That a big fat fucking F, and it belongs in, I don't know, popcorn hell. I think I gotta come up with a lower grade or something. I've been so disenchanted with this movie, and I actually watched this Friday. No, yeah, I watched this Friday night. I held off on doing a review because I was like, do I even want to review He's All That? Like, do I even want to talk about it? I just decided to, and so yeah, I'm just so disenchanted that I'm just going like this, and I just keep slapping my hands on my knees because this movie is just not, it's not cinema. I've made this analogy before. This is the work of a high school student who fell in love with a teenage pop star, got to shoot a teenage pop star's music video, then tried to recreate that in a professional manner to try and make a movie, and failed miserably. So did you see He's All That?
Please don't.
If you have, drop me some feedback in the comments section below. I'll leave my link to my website in the description below as well. You guys are the best. Thank you for watching. My name is Alex Madden, and I'll see you at the movies somewhere.